Hello and welcome to the Daily Mill for Friday the 3rd of June 2022. Now, in today's Millwall news, nothing really new, just some more details about stories we've already spoken about. So we'll get into that now. This is from London newsonline.co.uk, the South London Press's online website, and it's about Joe Carnell leaving. So Mill boss Rowett on departure of Joe Carnell being a major loss and why he won't be replaced. Joe Carnell stepped down as Millwall technical coach this week so that he could spend more time with his family, with Rowett freely conceding he will be a major loss. The pair started working together at Birmingham City in 2014, and Carnell then followed Rowett to Derby County and Stoke City in analysis roles, but eventually the strain of the long distance commute from his home in the Midlands has seen Carnell leave his position. He is someone I've trusted for a long time, Rowett told the South London Press. I've been flatmates with him in London for the last 3 years. He had a little boy, Charlie, a couple of years ago, and as soon as him and Soph had him, I thought this could be tough now because he's travelling away from a young family. He's managed really well with it, but at some point I knew he'd want to be back home. He's someone I'm going to miss incredibly, both as a friend and as a member of staff, because he is brilliant at what he does. That's why we've worked together so well and for so long. I can ask him to do something and it's done exactly how I envisaged it would be done. I spent 3 months with Joe out of work after leaving Stoke, and we worked on the principles of how we were going to play. Were we going to play a back five? If so, what would that look like? What did training sessions look like? We spent so much time together working on these things. He was my running partner and got my times a lot lower because I was having to keep up with him. Now you'll see a sad old manager running the streets by himself. He's got a background in analysis, but he's sort of expanded that into a lot of tactical work and principles that we've developed at the club. Sometimes you have to accept that people have to do things for personal reasons, and you have to respect that. I'll still remain in close contact. I think there's an opportunity for him to do some stuff remotely, but he's so committed. I don't think he's the sort who just wants to do little bits. He'd want to do it properly. It's a brave decision to do what's right for him and his family. He's like me, he's got a 3 hour commute every time he wants to go home, and that's not easy for anyone who's got a young family. You can do it for 6 months or a year, but once you're nearly 3 years in, then it starts to take its toll a little bit. I think I'd have done the same myself if the circumstances had been the same. If he was telling me he was joining another club, then I might not have been quite so happy, but he kept on despite his family situation for longer than I thought he would. From a professional aspect, he's been absolutely incredible for me. I could genuinely say he's my right hand man and the closest person I've worked with over the period of time. It will be a bit of a challenge, but I endorse his decision. There will be hundreds of people out there wanting to employ him because there are very few people I've met in football as good as he is. Mill are not set to directly replace Carnell. Rowett said the likes of Paul Robinson will step up and have a little bit more responsibility in the next season along with Adam Barrett. The plan for the club is to bring in someone who can have half an eye on analysis and half an eye on collating all the data within the club. It's something we feel we need. We've brought in a lot of data from all the departments and it's something we need to embrace as a club. Certainly the way football is moving forward. It might be someone who doesn't have a football background but who can collate all that data and piece it together, make a little bit more direct sense and see trends within our team or within performances and training sessions. We're going to branch out and incorporate a slightly new role within the structure. Mill's head of performance Lawrence Bloom has also left and taken on the same role at Cambridge United. The former Charlton Athletic head of sports science had been with the Lions for 6 years. Bloomy called me and was another who was travelling a lot and looking for something a bit closer to home, said Rowett. The quality of his work was excellent. He was really popular with the players and not someone I wanted to leave. I've got Dave Carolan as my head of performance for a long time now, so we've got a slightly easier transition with someone in the club. Dave will go in and be head of health and performance. A little bit of a dual role and make sure we get some new ideas in there and move things forward in a slightly different way. So there you have it. A bit more details about what was going on. It's what was speculated that people who are not from London want to get out of London and go back home because it's much preferable for them to do that. Just wanted to. So Garrett says he's gonna miss the geezer, Carnell. He's gonna miss him quite a bit, both personally and professionally. Now we kind of saw before when Callum Davidson left, there was a little bit of dip in Mill's results. What's going to happen now is, will we see an impact directly on the team with no Carnell being there? With Garrett having one less person there to help him out? Don't know. You don't know. Maybe it might help Garrett out. Maybe I don't know. It's a weird one, isn't it? It could go either way. Well, you just gotta wait and see if it affects the players or if it affects Garrett and what he has to do if he has spread himself a bit thin. You can imagine in a position like that, at the level we're at, it's kind of a team effort. I mean, not like literally the team, but there's a team of management behind the team, and they've all got to pitch in and do things, and the manager is just like the leadership role, and it shouldn't really have affected that much, but we'll wait and see. And not ideal though, I suppose, but it is what it is. You gotta move on. So moving on to this, also from londonnewsonline.co.uk. Mill chief executive knows plenty of hard work ahead as new training complex plans take shape. Mill chief executive Steve Kavanagh is under no illusions that there is plenty of hard work lying ahead after the club released more details on their proposed new training ground complex in Kent. The Lions purchased 100 acres of land in West Kingsdown in September with a view to getting planning permission for a new hub that will be able to house the first team and academy. The first team are based at Calmont Road in Bromley, but that is only a lease arrangement after the previous owner, Thea Pafitis, sold the land. The academy has been situated at Blackheath's Well Hall since 2016. The Lions plan to submit a planning application by the end of this month and could face a wait until almost the end of the year to find out if it has been successful. This has been the best part of 9 months' work on this site alone, Kavanagh told the South London Press. We've gone through lots of sites before that, but there was just nothing available to get 50 acres. We actually own 100 acres because there is a field on the outside of the M20, which is linked by a bridge there, next to Battersea Dog's home. It came as one package. We couldn't find anything that was near deliverable. The site is a complex site because it is green belt and recreational uses permitted development, but it hasn't got any buildings on it. Now that we're so close to submitting the planning application, we've now gone public with getting the plans out there. I've spoken about it in my notes to the fans before. We've not been keeping it all a secret. We've got Calmont, but it was sold as a sale and lease back over 20 years ago. And at least there's a few years left to run. It's not long. In the grand scheme of things, we haven't engaged with the landlords. We've just got on with what we're doing because we may not get planning. We might have to engage with the landlords. That is a risky planning application because it is green belt. We have to recognise that. But Calmont is 15 acres. It's not big enough to really house an aspiring club that is currently in the Championship. There is also that divide to the academy in Blackheath, which again is a rented site that we don't own. We've got that physical gap between the two and we want to bring it together. The academy, first team and the core staff. We want to build on the unity that this club has always survived and thrived on. We're trying to get this done to secure the long-term future of the club, to give us a stable platform that we're not worried about leases running down or other things. That is a very good point as well. If they own the training ground, it's not going to be a problem in the future. Something you don't have to worry about. What happens to those sites which are rented? Is there not only that? Let me get back. That would be nice if we had that with the ground as well, because you've seen all the nonsense with that with Lewisham Council on the 100-year lease or whatever it is. Now you think 100 years, that's a long time. Well, yes and no. It can start running down pretty quickly, and then you're gonna have to start finding a new solution to your problems. What happens to those sites which are rented? Is there a difference with the Blackheath one, that we could potentially run a youth development centre out there if we can get the right deal done with Blackheath? Maybe. Okay. So he's saying they might keep something there, maybe Mill Community Trust or something, and they might not just abandon it altogether. What we've got to do first and foremost is get planning application through, and once we've got that, it will give us the confidence to then start putting proper plans in place about what happens next to those sites. Kavanagh, appointed by the Lions in 2016, is not keen to put the cost on the project. You're in the tens of millions, he said. I'm trying to stay away from that because we need to get the planning application first. We need to get to a point of knowing it is viable. What we will then do is value, engineer and work out how it is constructed. There are certain aspects we have to deliver, so it isn't going to be cheap. While if you go and look at the sign, it looks level. It is not. It's also heavily flinted. Oh no, not heavily flinted. We have got to deal with that because you can't have flint in the pitches. Oh yeah, can you imagine? They build all these pitches, and people start gashing up their shins and their knees and stuff on the flint in the ground. Ooh, so what, they're gonna have to take that all out and then put topsoil in? Holy moly. You have to construct pitches in the indoor dome. They are not cheap. You have to have them for your academy. In fact, if you're building a training ground, that has to be on that site. The design and the facilities we want to build now would allow us to go to a Cat 1 status of the academy if we wanted to do so. At this point, we're building it at a level we are now, Cat 2, but we won't need to do any new buildings to get a Cat 1 status. The aspiration to get a Cat 1 status is there, and we won't need to go back to planning or anything. Now, what does that mean? I'm not too up with all that stuff. Does that mean we'll be in the Premier League under 23s level? I'm not sure. I don't know. I think that would allow us to go up to that level. So our under 23s will be playing the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, and all that. Now you can imagine. They're not going to fare too well because they're perennially going to be the underdogs. At the moment, we're not doing that badly at that level. But if we were to start playing those teams and get beat handily every week, I don't think that'd be too good for the youth players. Or maybe the reverse. Maybe they're going to have to get good because all those humiliating defeats will force them to sort themselves out. So yeah, how many pitches you put in a grade 1 den standard versus some that are lower down, all those decisions are to be made. At this point is actually irrelevant because if you don't get planning, it don't matter. I've got rough ideas of the cost, but I could be blown out of the water in many different directions. We need to look at how that is funded and how we bring that forward. Specific current considerations for the proposed training and academy facility includes solar, biodiversity net gain, landscape conservation, and local materials, electric vehicle charging, natural ventilation, low energy lighting, water conservation, recycling and renewable technologies. It's an important step for the future of the club and an exciting step, said Kavanagh. This will really secure and set the next 25 to 50 years future of this club to allow it to continue to grow and aspire to get to the next level. We know it isn't easy to get to the next level, especially with the parachute monies and the complexity of the championship funding, but without training facilities we haven't got a hope in hell. This can give us the confidence to grow in that building and development that develop that building as our own, not someone else's rented house. Kavanagh also believes the fruition of their West Kingsdown plans would aid recruitment. It's very easy as a fan to just see the Den as a player's place of work, he said. While we've got Calmont to a level that it works, it isn't the best training ground in the country, and it would probably be one of the worst in League One if we're being honest. When it comes to the Championship, it is important as a player to know where you're going to be working day in, day out, how that looks and feels. You want to have a modern environment that's been considered properly constructed and architecturally flows around the building, rather than Calmont where you've got a porter cabin and a gym. The players have to walk through the dressing room or main players area to go outside, potentially when it's wet, into a gym that's 30 yards away. Ah, boo-hoo. So what, man? Just fucking do it. It seems like nothing, and it isn't really. Oh, yeah. We make it work. However, ideally you want the gym next to the dressing rooms and wet area that goes out to the first team pitches. The aim is to make their day-to-day working life more comfortable, and that helps improve them delivering on the pitch. The Den is that showcase, but this is where they do their work. We need to show we care about that. There is also the aspiration for the academy guys. A 9-year-old will see the first team environment and he can work towards it. At that moment, it is 6 miles away. There's some interesting stuff there. So I think this is like a Steve Kavanagh interview to the South London Press. So obviously a bit more details and a bit more words being spoken there from Steve Kavanagh, Millwall CEO. Now, moving on to this story from news@den.co.uk. Bit of an opinion piece, I think. Cliff edge situation needs to be resolved to ensure promotion possibility for Millwall isn't a pipe dream. For all of the excitement of last season and Millwall remarkably taking their playoff challenge to the last day, there was a depressingly familiar feel about the top of the Championship. Fulham went straight back up as champions, and AFC Bournemouth joined them after just 2 seasons in the second tier. It is the Cottagers' 3rd promotion to the Premier League over the last 5 seasons since Millwall came up from League One, and that is something that has become more of a regular feature of the division. Norwich have been relegated immediately after promotion to the Premier League 3 times in a row. Both the Canaries and Watford were relegated in 2019-20, only to go back up the following season. No doubt they will be among the front runners again next season after relegation in 21-22. It's not difficult to identify the main root of this problem, where the same handful of clubs are going up and coming back down. The Premier League introduced parachute payments in 26-7 and said they allow clubs to invest in their teams and wider operations in the knowledge that should they be relegated, they have provisions in place to readjust their finances. Yeah. And what people aren't, a lot of people moan about this, but before they were brought in, you had the likes of Swindon, who were absolutely fucking dog shit and finished rock bottom of the table. And that happened quite a lot, because when the teams came up, they couldn't compete, or they didn't want to compete because they knew we're outclassed here. The odds are that we're going to get relegated. So why are we going to spend all this money to try and compete when we're just going to get relegated anyway? So that was the parachute payments are a solution to a problem. Now they seem to now be causing another problem. But you got one problem, you got another problem. Which one? You're going to get rid of the parachute payments and then you're going to go back to the old problem. So obviously we need another way. In 2017-18, for example, the Premier League forked out 243 million in parachute payments, which was split between 8 clubs. Solidarity payments of 100 million was split between the remaining 64 EFL clubs. 2 of those 8 clubs, Cardiff and Fulham, were promoted, while another, Aston Villa, reached the playoff final. It's no wonder that Lions CEO Steve Kavanagh wants to see changes. At the moment, there is a cliff edge between the Premier League and Championship, Kavanagh told News@Den. And if there's a cliff edge, if you fall off that cliff, you need a parachute. If you bring the revenue gaps closer together, and as EFL chairman Rick Parry says, make it a step. You should be rewarded for getting to the Premier League. Of course you should, but make it a step, not a cliff edge, which it has become. Then you don't need a parachute to step off a step. So what's he saying there? Well, here's the thing. The EFL have heavily restricted through financial fair play what the teams can do. So you can't have investment going into a team from just outside. It needs to be funded. You can't just have someone coming in out of nowhere and just pumping millions and millions into a football team. There's a limit to what they can spend. So you've cut your own legs off. So what they're trying to say is the Premier League need to calm themselves down and stop spending the money. The money's coming in. They're making the money through the TV rights around the world. The money's got to go somewhere. So, and the fans want to see the money on the pitch. They want to see quality players. That's why there's a gap there. Redistribution is critical to the long-term future and sustainability of football, and everyone in the EFL accepts that redistribution has to come with regulations to ensure that redistribution doesn't just lead to the same amount of losses that have led to clubs being in serious financial difficulty, and even big clubs such as Derby risking going out of business. Redistribution, what's that about? What's that? Communism? What's he talking about there? You want to take money off people who are earning it and spread it around to people who are not? What? We need the regulations to make sure that money goes into making these clubs sustainable, so it isn't just them being spewed out the back end. It's more than just parachutes. It's about holistically redefining where the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is, making sure that the Championship can be sustainable but also can aspire to get into the Premier League and be capable of doing it. Otherwise, football is in danger of becoming boring, because with the same teams going up and down, it ruins a dream. Well, you never mind all this redistribution. It's pretty easy to solve. All you need to do is make it a standard contract article in all Premier League contract players that if their team gets relegated, their contract is null and void. Boom. But I bet the PFA wouldn't go for that, would they? I bet they wouldn't go for that, because then their costs, the cost for the Premier League Cup is the players' contracts. So if they get relegated, they can just cut all the players, and then they cut all their costs, and then they can start afresh, signing players on the budget that they're going to get from the crowds, from the EFL money. So how about we do that instead of redistribution and all this communist bullshit that he's talking about? Just have it standard practice in every Premier League player's contract. Every team, even Arsenal, Man United, even if they're probably not going to be relegated, if the teams get relegated, then the player's contract is null and void, and then it's solved. It's sorted. Done. But they won't. They don't want that. They don't want that. They want to take your money from the Premier League that's being earned from all these global TV contracts that's being paid out to the players. They want to take that money off of them and spread it around. They won't cut the players' contracts. That would solve it overnight. That would literally solve it overnight. Because the costs are with the players' contracts. That's your liability as a football club. That's it. So if you get relegated and you can tell all the players, you're free to leave. Bye bye. On your, what is it, £60,000 a week, £100,000 a week. Yep, not anymore. You're not. Bye bye. Done. Sorted. I've solved it. I've solved it, guys. Fixed it. I fixed it for you. But I'm pretty sure they will not like that. But anyway, let's crack on. The dream should be there. Nottingham Forest just got back after 23 years and a lot of hard work, a lot of money, and we need to make sure that the transition of clubs like Forest and the ability of a club like Millwall to get into the Premier League, that isn't just a pipe dream. It can be a reality based on good, solid hard work and by doing things properly behind the scenes, rather than having to go into the casino and stick everything on red. Millwall won't be taking gambles like that, but if something doesn't change, then the odds on promotion to the Premier League will always be stacked against them. Maybe not, but let's have a look at this. Now, this is something I pulled up from soccer.nbcsports.com, and I believe it is an American website, and they talk about the history of promotion and relegation in the Premier League era. So, the charges, all the teams go, well, most of the teams that come down from the Premier League go straight back up. Does that claim hold water? Let's have a look. How long relegated? All told, 22 of 82 teams relegated between 1992 to 1993. I think that was the first season in the Premier League. And 2018-19, so this is 3 years ago, returned to the Premier League after just one season. Did you hear that? After just one season. So they got relegated, they had one season in the Championship, and then they came back up. Only 22 out of 82 teams did that. That's a quarter. That is a quarter. It's not most teams. We have this theory that exists that's is not true. It's just not true. Because we see it over and over again. Some teams do this. Norwich, Watford, Fulham, they do this. But most teams do not. 3/4 of the teams do not come back up straight away after one season down. So let's have a look at this. So when have at least 2 teams bounce right back? So when you get 3 teams get relegated from the Premier League, the next season 2 teams go straight back up. When has that happened? Well, that's just that hasn't happened. Bournemouth were down two seasons, yeah. So here, look, never have all 3 relegated teams come right back up to the Premier League the next season, and only 5 times in 27 seasons have 2 teams bounce straight back after just a single Championship season. 5 times, only 2 of the relegated teams came straight back up. 5 out of 27. It's not a thing. We think it's a thing. It's not a thing. Now here's the thing: they might be challenging, they might be up there, they might get in the playoffs, but then they might lose the playoffs. So they are one of the best teams in the league, but they can't hit that final nail in the coffin and go straight back up. So here are the times when at least 2 teams have come straight back, bounced back up straight away. Burnley and Hull, Newcastle, West Brom, Birmingham and Sunderland, Forest and Middlesbrough, Forest and Leicester. Yeah. It's only 5 times 2 teams relegated straight back up the next season. How long relegated? So we've already read some of that. Like I said, only a quarter. 22 out of 82 teams relegated go straight back up. Only a quarter. 11 times. So how? So then they go through all the teams, and what they're doing now. So these are the teams that got relegated from Premier League. These are the teams that are yet to return. Now remember, this is from 2019. This story was written March 28th, 2021. So at the end of last season. So all of these teams here, I'm not going to read them all out because there's so many. They haven't been back in the Premier League. Now, we obviously know Nottingham Forest are now. So yeah, one of them teams has just gone back up. But all of these teams here have been relegated from the Premier League and haven't been back up since their last relegation from the Premier League. You see this? Swindon, Oldham, Barnsley, Wimbledon, Bradford, Ipswich, Charlton. These are all the teams who spent one season in the Championship and then went back up straight away. A full list of them and the seasons that they did it. 2 seasons in the Championship. They got relegated. They had 2 seasons down, and then when they went back up. These teams here. 3 seasons. These teams. 4 seasons. Fulham are on that list there as well. 5 seasons. 6 seasons. It literally lists them all. 7 seasons, 8 seasons, 9 seasons, 10 seasons, 12 seasons, 15 seasons, 16 seasons for Leeds United. So the idea that parachute payments are causing relegated teams from the Premier League to have so much money that they can spend it in the EFL Championship and blow everyone out of the water and get promoted the next season is false. It's false. It's not true. Only 22 out of 82 teams relegated between 1992, 1993 and 2018 and 19 returned to the Premier League after just 1 season. And on that note, thank you for watching and goodbye.